Hello, everyone. My name is Tori Williamson, and I'm the COO and co-leader of Bisocial Canada. I'm thrilled to welcome you here today to Bisocial Canada's Marketplace Impact Social Enterprise Forward event. To begin our session in a good way, I'm pleased to welcome Julia Anderson to share an Indigenous welcome and perspective on social enterprise.
Thank you, Tori, and hello, everyone. I'd first like to highlight the celebration of 10 years of Bisocial Canada. That's amazing. It's so inspiring to be here with other passionate individuals and organizations to advance and expand the social procurement across communities. So, Nakamik, thank you to Bisocial Canada for inviting me to speak today. I'm excited to be here to share an Indigenous perspective on social enterprise through my own experience that have shaped my approach in this work, along with more about some of the initiatives that we have here at First Light. Ulukut ilunasi atiga Julia Anderson inuvunga nunaingu miunguvunga nunatsiavum mute. Good day, everyone. My name is Julia Anderson. I'm an Inuk, originally from Nain, Nunatsiavut, currently living in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, my home for the past 11 years. Before I continue, I'd like to acknowledge Newfoundland, Akdamguk, as the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk and Mi'kmaq peoples, and to recognize Labrador as the ancestral homelands of the Labrador Inuit and the Innu of Nitassinan. The photo that you see here is of Inuit homelands, the Torngat Mountains, a protected national park in Nunatsiavut, Labrador. I strongly feel that connection to the land and community resonates with the values of both social enterprise and Indigenous culture. I wanted to share this photo because it's a part of my home and cultural heritage. I'd like to encourage you all to take a moment to reflect on and acknowledge the Indigenous territories you are living in, to consider their histories, to celebrate Indigenous cultures, and to support social enterprises that benefit Inuit communities. Last summer, I had the honor of visiting the Torngats as part of a leadership program where we immersed ourselves in learning from Inuit elders, artists, and elders. Inuit leaders, artists, and elders. There was a session in particular that stuck out to me, focusing on Inuit Hauyuma Yatuchngit, which translates to Inuit values or traditional Inuit knowledge, as described in the book What Inuit Have Always Known to Be True by Joe Kartak. I'd like to share a few of these values that guide my daily life and work. Avatinik Kamatsianik means respect and care for the land, artifacts, and environment, a fundamental value for Inuit, emphasizing our responsibility to protect and sustain environment. Biitsinnit, serving and providing for family and community, prioritizing the well-being of others and ensuring that everyone's needs are met, the heart of how we design and deliver our programs. Inuuqatigitsianik, respecting others and relationships, caring for people, and valuing strong connections with others. Ikayuqatiginnik, working together for a common cause and recognizing the empowerment of collaboration. Qanutdunik, being innovative and resourceful and adapting to challenges. My time in the Torngats reminded me that much of what I've learned about social enterprise throughout my experience with First Light is connected to Indigenous culture and teachings that are deeply rooted and passed down through generations from my family, my elders, and my community. As an Inuk woman working with social enterprises that involve Indigenous health services, it feels natural to integrate Inuit values into the holistic and essential services we provide to Indigenous communities. I see these values come to life in my everyday work at First Light, where they're integrated into our programs, services, and social enterprises. So First Light is a registered charity and nonprofit organization dedicated to revitalizing and celebrating Indigenous cultures and languages. Operating from multiple locations in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, First Light employs over 60 staff that provide programs and services to urban Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities. Our diverse social enterprise portfolio ranges from medical transportation and accommodation services to a childcare center, a performing arts center, affordable housing units, and a cultural diversity training program. The ultimate outcome for all of our social enterprises encompasses a specific social purpose, with a secondary goal to be financially self-sustaining. First Light's focus on advocacy, empowerment, and sustainability aligns with social enterprise models by creating programs with Indigenous culture, community, and well-being at the core of everything we do. As the manager of health services at First Light, I am primarily involved with our medical, transportation, navigation, and accommodation services, also known as the Lunar Inn. We'll share a link here in the chat for anyone interested in checking out the Lunar Inn website and reading more about our story. The Lunar Inn is an enhancement of our medical transportation program, First Light's longest running social enterprise. It has a 4-bedroom medical hostel that offers a safe, welcoming space for Indigenous individuals and families traveling to St. John's from rural and remote locations for medical care that cannot be accessed in their home communities. To ensure guests feel culturally respected and valued, First Light offers holistic services that go beyond accommodation, including patient navigation, interpretation services for Inuktitut and Inuimun languages, elder support, housing and cultural support, wellness programs, arts, recreation, and special events. One of the Inuit values I had mentioned earlier, CCEDNet, which means respecting relationships and caring for people, is such an important part of Indigenous culture that can be reflected in our business model at the Lunar Inn. Spaces at the inn were created respectfully by artists of different Indigenous backgrounds, ensuring that everyone feels represented and welcome. Integrating this approach helps us build trust and create a sense of belonging for our guests, who often find themselves far from home during challenging times. Partnerships and collaboration are also an integral piece of social procurement and in our communities. First Light partners with several organizations, each playing a vital role in supporting our mission to sustain essential services for the Indigenous community. By working together, we can enhance the delivery of our services, foster meaningful connections with Indigenous communities, and create a lasting impact. Social procurement has a significant impact on this, and I see tremendous potential for Indigenous perspectives to shape the future and sustainability of social enterprise. It's super empowering to witness the growing commitment to social responsibility, where economic success is measured not only in financial profits, but in the well-being of the people and the land. As more businesses embrace this approach, we move closer to a future where Indigenous-led social enterprises and other mission-driven organizations can thrive, creating lasting benefits for all. Looking ahead, I'm excited to see what the next 10 years will have in store for Biosocial Canada and its partners, and for the potential to expand the reach of social value within Indigenous communities and beyond. Thank you again for the opportunity to share my thoughts and experiences with you. I look forward to learning from each of you and continuing this important work together. Nakamik. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julia. Wow, it was a very touching opening for today. And on Julia's wall was a picture of the land that I grew up on. So felt very momentous to be thinking about the land and our relationships and how we work together as Julia and I are bookending the country here from the East Coast to the West Coast. And we're gathering here virtually with you all today, thinking about the land and how our social enterprise work can help us care for each other. I think the Inuit values that you shared are the values that I feel social enterprises bring to the economy and community and the way that we can all work, live, and thrive together. So thank you so much, Julia, for sharing your wisdom today and for the incredible work First Light is doing to support Indigenous healthcare. We're going to hear from many more inspiring social enterprises today, so I can't wait. We're going to do some quick housekeeping to kick us off before we get into these great conversations. We have people joining us from all over the country, and we're grateful for your time, energy, and stories. There's going to be a lot of ways for you to interact and connect today. So I'm going to run you through some of those elements on the virtual platform that we're gathered on today, which is called AirMeet. So the platform has opportunities for folks to look at each other and the people speaking. So on the top right-hand side, there are a few useful icons. You can select people to see who's online, click on someone to start a direct message with other participants. If you go to the next icon, messages, you can have direct conversations with folks. You can use my profile to update your audio and video settings or personal information. Below that menu bar on the right, there's a chat for open conversation between everyone online. Below the stage, you can see the reactions. We've seen some of those already today. So you can share emojis and kind of give some feedback quickly and in a fun way as we go. You can use the number keys 1 through 7 on your keyboard to share them quickly. Below the stage, you can click on the button for closed captionings, CC, to turn on auto captions. And if you have any questions, you can click the question mark in the left corner of your screen or find Emma Rennertz, our incredible communications manager, in the people section and send her a direct message. Between panels today, we've got breaks for community discussion and networking using AirMeet's tables. So in between sessions, you'll be in the main page of AirMeet, which is called the Social Lounge. You probably saw this page when you joined the event. If you scroll down, you'll see several virtual tables that you can join to meet people and discuss what you're hearing. You'll be able to see who's already at the tables and move between them with ease. Just join and take a seat and close the pop-out to leave the table. So as I've said, this is an exciting time for Bisocial Canada. It is our 10-year anniversary. In the past year, we've spent time reflecting on our journey so far. We've looked back at all that has been achieved to consider how to consolidate a decade of learning and experience to contribute towards the momentum of the social enterprise sector we're seeing across the country. We've celebrated coming so far as more and more social enterprises are starting and growing to support their communities. We have also been grieving the loss of our founder, David LePage, who passed in the spring of this year. He was a man whose vision contributed so much to our first 10 years and to the social enterprise movement in Canada. And we're going to be launching the new guide to social enterprise that he was originally one of the authors on. At the same time, we're challenging ourselves to look ahead at what we can collectively do next to drive social enterprise forward for the next 10 years. So that's going to be the mindset for our conversations today. And with that, I'm pleased to welcome our next speaker, who is Ryan Turnbull, Member of Parliament for Whitby, Ontario, and Parliamentary Secretary to the Deputy Minister, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Innovation, Science and Industry. Sadly, Ryan isn't able to join us live today, but he's a fierce champion of social enterprise and will share some opening remarks from the federal government perspective.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to open this event as Bisocial Canada celebrates a decade of transformative growth in the social enterprise sector across Canada. Over the past 10 years, you have championed the integration of social enterprises into procurement processes, demonstrating that purchasing from businesses dedicated to social good can drive significant community benefits. Your vision aligns perfectly with our government's mission in launching the Investment Readiness Program, the Social Finance Fund, and developing Canada's social procurement policy, as well as the social innovation and social finance strategy more broadly. The federal government investment aims to foster a future where social purpose organizations committed to addressing social, economic, and environmental challenges have equitable, affordable, and flexible access to the capital and contracts they need. These initiatives and more have been the focus of continuous advocacy efforts, and they are more than just financial support. They're more than just a shift in policy. It's about creating a thriving, sustainable ecosystem, an enabling environment, as we like to say, where social enterprises can innovate and scale their impact right across Canada. The Social Finance Fund represents a powerful tool, one of many tools, in realizing this vision, and so does the work with federal lending institutions that we've undertaken with EDC and BDC. By mobilizing over $2 billion in public and private capital, we're tackling the barriers that have historically limited access to finance for social enterprises in Canada. This includes addressing the underrepresentation of equity-deserving groups and ensuring that capital is available in ways that's both affordable and adaptable to their needs. Looking ahead, our government envisions a landscape where social enterprises are integral to solving some of our most pressing issues, be it housing affordability, food security, or climate change, and many more. In years to come, we anticipate a social value marketplace that is well established, vibrant, and composed of a diverse array of organizations operating at scale and making meaningful contributions to our communities right across Canada. Our government's commitment is to build a legacy that supports this growth and ensures that social enterprises continue to thrive. Together, through initiatives like Canada's policy on social procurement, the Social Finance Fund, and others, as well as the essential work of Bisocial Canada, we're driving positive change and unlocking the full potential for social impact. Thank you so much for being part of this journey and for all of your significant contributions. Together, we will continue to foster and build a more equitable, just, and sustainable economy for all Canadians.
Amazing. Thank you for those words and for your hard work championing social enterprise, Ryan. We look forward to seeing how the federal government will continue to support the social enterprise ecosystem. Next, I'm pleased to welcome a longtime collaborator, Mike Toye of the Canadian Community Economic Development Network, to join me for a discussion about the national perspective of social enterprise. Mike is the ED of CCEDNet and the chair of the Government of Canada's Social Innovation Advisory Council. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Tori. Thanks for having me.
Can you give us a short context of the social enterprise ecosystem in Canada today? How did we get here?
Well, the really quick summary, I'd say, is a way of conducting economic activities that are inclusive and sustainable on the land now known as Canada. You have to, of course, start with Indigenous practices that go back millennia based on the values that Julia described. And similar to the 7 sacred teachings, these are still powerful lessons for us. Then when settlers arrived, capitalism developed. The first co-ops were established in the 1800s. Black diaspora communities had their own solidarity-based economic systems to survive, and the social economy in Quebec goes back, in fact, 150 years. But more recently, say the social economy returned to prominence in Quebec in the late 90s, around the same time as the rest of Canada developed community economic development. And then federally, in 2004, the federal government had a social economy initiative. And there's been a lot of sector growth and evolution over the last 25 years with provincial strategies. There was the Social Enterprise World Forum in Calgary in 2013 and Nova Scotia in 2021. There's been ecosystem building projects through enterprising nonprofits, ENP Canada, the Social Enterprise Ecosystem Project. You'll talk again about the Canadian Guide on Social Enterprise. Congratulations on that update. The Canadian Conference on Social Enterprise, organized by the Social Enterprise Council of Canada, over 20 years. And now, as Ryan mentioned, the Federal Social Innovation and Social Finance Strategy. So it's been a lot going on.
That's great. And there's the Social Enterprise Council of Canada, and they have their 6 pillars that have been collaboratively designed with the sector, which I think we can still draw on from today as to what is needed to continue to push the ecosystem forward. So with that in mind, what do you think is needed next so that we continue to grow the movement?
I would say just more consistent support. Like I talked about all of those activities over the last 25 years, but it's often felt like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. There's a lot of fragmentation, false starts, inaction, delays. I mean, we can look at what works. Here in Quebec is a clear example. Over nearly 30 years of stable, consistent organizing and building, they've created a coherent ecosystem that's a really powerful force. They've made specific gains with legislation, procurement, access to programs, and coordination for strategic growth. And we know, you talked about the Social Enterprise Council of Canada's 6 pillars. The OECD passed a recommendation last year on social solidarity economy and social innovation that draws on best practices from around the world, and they lay it all out, the framework for successful action that is quite similar to the Social Enterprise Council of Canada's 6 pillars is very clear. So here in Canada, now we have the Social Finance Fund capital rolling out that Ryan mentioned. The IRP, the Investment Readiness Program, supported social purpose organizations and social enterprises. That needs to continue. And now social finance intermediaries are looking to absorb the capital coming from social finance fund wholesalers. And I'd say they need some focused attention as well. So the last thing I'll say is, of course, 8 years ago, for people who are around, most provinces had social enterprise strategies as well. So we need to get those back. We need to keep building.
Yeah, it seems like, we get funding cycles, programs get funded and then they end. And then that work then kind of has to go by the wayside until there's a next stream of funding that's available. So what actions do you think we can take, the people here today can take, and the sector can take to go towards that consistent ecosystem building funding?
Well, I don't think there's any sort of magic wand solutions. I'm of the school that it's about collective action, right? It's amazing to see over 100 people out at this session together. The ecosystem builders and system catalysts like Bisocial Canada, the Chantier, provincial and national co-op associations, provincial and national nonprofit associations, groups like CCEDNet Manitoba, Flourish Alberta, who bring us together to identify strategic opportunities and then act on them together, end up making gains for the sector. So that's step by step. It's how we grow. I'm sort of a subscriber to that proverb about quick alone, but further together. And, we can do little things like increasing purchasing from each other, align communications, coordinate advocacy, but it's that strategic solidarity that's going to help us win more often.
Excellent. So coming to events like this is a good first step, isn't it?
I'm amazed to see the people out here. It's great. It's lovely to see so many folks. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this time in this space and the fact that we're able to gather virtually from across the country really helps give us that opportunity for that strength and solidarity.
Yeah.
Can you share us a story of impact that inspires you about social enterprise?
So you'd think after 16 years of ED of CCEDNet, I would have ready stories easy to tell, but there are so many, and it's so hard to tell these stories in a soundbite, right? Because it really is personal. It's the impacts that social enterprises have in so many different settings, in so many different lives. Each one is unique and special. There's a video on CCEDNet's YouTube channel about social enterprise in St. John, the Hungry Heart Cafe, operated by Stella Circle. It's called Chef with a Heart, and that always gets me, touches me. And of course, I'm also very much inspired by our friends in the Friendship Center movement. We heard from Julia earlier about the amazing examples of the diverse and dynamic social enterprises that First Light runs. Another model that they often point to is the Val d'Or Friendship Center in Quebec. They have so many services like childcare, social housing, health, office space, not just for Indigenous groups, but for others. Like, it's a community hub. It's a meaningful example of what social enterprise can be for a community, in particular, in this case, determining what community wealth in an urban Indigenous context looks like. So they're all inspiring. It's beautiful. And social enterprise as an ecosystem is really the compilation of those stories. And I think we'll see more profound shifts when we're able to communicate our stories in ways that reinforce common messages that invite others into that community transformation, to those personal impacts, reconciliation, inclusion, the life-affirming practices that reinforce nature and well-being. It is simple, even if it's complicated, and ultimately it's a better way.
I love that, like, kind of reinforcing key messages. And I think, what you've shared, what Julia shared, like, I think it resonates so strongly with people, but it often feels like, people are either already thinking this way or they're not. And, I'm curious, are there any key messages that come to your mind that you think that we could be consistently trying to get out there?
I would say right now, my case in point is leveling the playing field, right? Like I think we need to recognize that part of our challenge is the language. There's so many different terms for social enterprises, social impact, social finance, and I think that's fine. But we need to distinguish ourselves from business as usual. In ultimately, what makes the fundamental difference for me is ownership. And the definition of the Social Enterprise Council of Canada and Bisocial about who's benefiting from profits, who's making the decisions. That's I think the governance and assurance that community needs are being met. And if we can distinguish ourselves and say that these are viable practices, right? It's not greater risk. It's actually higher survival rates, 5 and 10 years. They're delivering better benefits for communities. We deserve the same kind of support that the private sector has had, billions of dollars for decades, centuries. And once we level that playing field in terms of access and support, I think we'll see a real transformation in terms of the growth and the impacts of the sector.
Absolutely. And I think that ownership piece, that following the money, really thinking about, for me, I always like to think about, okay, what are the kind of key drivers and motivations for how a system is going to function? And our business as usual is focused on that profit motive. And so that's where we have extraction, we have exploitation, and there are lots of great for-profit businesses out there, but we really want to distinguish and celebrate social enterprise for being unique with that lens of community ownership, of having profits go into the mission and to serve the community, to create a community asset. But I definitely resonate that struggle with language as we work on social procurement, sustainable procurement, ethical procurement, responsible procurement. And people are like, are these all different? And you're like, no, they're probably pretty much the same, but we're using a million different coded languages that can become quite a big barrier to the sector's success.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is fantastic, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for the work that you do with CCEDNet. I think it's really needed, and sometimes in our current system, it doesn't always get valued in the same way because that ecosystem building isn't a product that we can directly sell, but social enterprises sell great products. So we'll figure out ways to support the network and really encourage anyone who's not already a member to join CCEDNet and to support their great work.
Thank you, Tori. And I should shout out, CCEDNet exists because of its members. So many people who are here on the call today, and people like you who step up to join the board as well. So thank you for all of your collective efforts, and together we will get there.
Awesome. I can't wait. Can't wait to see what's coming next for the social enterprise movement. So thanks so much, Mike. Next in our program is an opportunity for all the folks here to get to chat with each other and reflect on our opening remarks so far. So we've got our first community discussion using AirMeet's tables. So please join a table, see who's there, see who you want to chat with. You can even, an advanced maneuver, invite somebody to your table if there's someone specific you want to talk to. When you're at the table, please introduce yourselves to others on the call and share what inspires you and motivates you about social enterprise and any reflections you have from our conversation so far. We're going to have 15 minutes in these tables, and then we'll give you a little cue to wrap up. It can be hard. I know it gets really exciting when we get to a chance to talk like this, but we'll be back for our next session in 15 minutes.